Alright, we're back working on the Patrol. So we're in the new shed now. You can see I put the bull bar on just because I have been driving the car around. But today we're going to be lifting it. So we've got a 3-inch lift kit from Old Man Emu with springs, shocks and steering dampener. And we're going to see how much it's going to lift the car. So it's currently got a 3-inch lift in it from 20 years ago. So we'll see how much it's sagged in those 20 years. So we're going to measure how high it is from the hub to the flare, just so we have a basis to go off, and then we'll do the same thing once the new lift's in. So at the moment it's sitting around 54.5 centimeters, and this side is 57.5. So this side is a lot less sagged than the front, but it's got heavy duty springs in the rear because it used to be a farm truck. So it's definitely sagged a lot more in the front than the rear. So the front does scrub on things because of that. The front tyre goes up when we're flexing and then it hits. The other thing we're going to check is when it's on the hoist and the wheels are free hanging, we're going to check the natural flex as well, and just see how much it does naturally compress when it's in the air, or naturally depress. We're going to check how much it naturally hangs when it's in the air, and check it with the new things in it as well. Alright, so this one, with it just hanging on the hoist, is sitting at 65.5. That's not bad. Let's check the front. So this one sits at 65.5 as well. So this one has a lot more travel because the front was lower before. Time to pull it all apart. Alright, so we've gone with the 3-inch Nitro Charger Sport shock absorbers from Old Man Emu, as well as the front and rear 3-inch springs from Old Man Emu. We've gone with the foam cell Old Man Emu steering stabilizer as well. So let's open them up and see how they look. Oh, they're black. I thought they'd be yellow. I don't want to paint them yellow. Yeah, so these are definitely the rears. Wow. Look at the size difference of that. So no, so these two are different to these two. So this is the D2159. Woo! This one's the 1141. Oh, they're completely different. This is a...
That's definitely...
Okay, so we've opened up all the shocks and springs and steering dampener, and they all come with new bushes and everything, so we'll be able to replace all that, make it all fresh. The rubbers for the coils don't seem to be in here, so we're going to have to check the ones that are on the top, because with Patrols they don't have any rubber on the bottom anyway, but we'll check the top one, see how bad it is, and hopefully we can just reuse the same one again. Oh look, Cooper's here.
Hello, Cooper.
With this suspension kit, it's the same deal as the Raptor. I got it at the Melbourne Ford Drive Show, so I got a bit of a discount, so that's why I went with these ones. They seem like they had the best overall quality for price. So they're definitely not the top, but they're, in my opinion, the best bang for buck suspension that I could get at the time. And they're made in Australia, so bonus. I mean, I wish they were a bit more colourful.
Yeah, the springs are black.
The springs are black. Yeah, well, I'm thinking I might have to paint them. So the springs are really, really soft after being here for so long. We're just going to clamp them, pull the springs out, and see how we go. We got to check these rubbers on the top once we pull the springs out.
I'm going to stand this side of the car.
So all the dirt here is probably not helping with the creaking and stuff when you're going on bumps. We got the spring out, the shock was completely destroyed, so we'll give this all a clean, paint the springs and put it all back together. Okay, so this is coming out now. This This one's at least a little bit better than the other one.
Not as bad as the last one, no.
Well, the Rock's shock absorbers have had their last rock. So we went and bought some paint. So this is a steering dampener, so they're pretty much the same colour. We're going to paint the springs to make them look a bit more fancy. So we've got to rub them back a little bit, spray them, and then we can fit them. Alright, so the paint's dried now, so we're ready to put them in. I'm just going to clean up all around here where the springs and shocks are going to go, just so it looks a bit nicer and it's not going to wear anything out a bit faster having dirt rub against it. So we can see the new and the old springs here. They're very different in size. So this is a 3-inch lift from 20 years ago, and this is a 3-inch lift from a couple of weeks ago. And it's about an inch difference in it, in the height. So they're a lot thicker as well, which means it should be a lot better for the road. So we're going to chuck the fronts in and pull the backs out. So the diff can't go any lower where it is, sort of at its capacity. We got the transmission jack just holding the diff up because otherwise it'll be held on by brake lines and the diff breather, which we don't want. So we're going to have to compress the clamp a fair amount to get it in, because obviously these ones are a little bit bigger. I know that you can take this off and put it in first, but we're going to give it a go without having to do that, hopefully. So the larger part goes on the top, the thicker bit. You might have to take that out. Okay, so we got it in. Cool, so that's in. So we're gonna have to put this back in. So it's definitely easier to pull the bump stop out and do it that way. Let's loosen these off. Cool, one done. That looks great. So it's got a bit of scratch marks on it, but I don't really care. You can't really see them, so. We'll tighten up this and then do the same on the other side. The driver's side's in. We've got a few scratches on it just because the paint's fresh, but it looks great, so I don't mind. Time to put the shocks on for the fronts and get moving on to the rears. I went with Old Man Emu because ARB had the best communication skills. I told them exactly what I used the car for, that I'm planning on building a rear bar. I've got a rooftop tent and I've got the bull bar with the winch, and they said, this is exactly what you need. They showed me the different specs of what it can hold, and they were just definitely the best communication wise. So I'm assuming this plastic cover stays on it, which is really cool. It's got the Old Man Emu style design on there. So we're going to open these shocks up and we're going to fully compress them and uncompress them a few times just to get all the oil flowing in them. So when I did Billy Goat's fluff track last year with Tate, the whole way down we were just scrubbing. The tyres were hitting the guards, which is not good. So these shocks have been leaking for at least 3 years because they were leaking before I owned it. So it's going to drive like a brand new car. Alright, so we've got the washer on and the bush on for this side. So it's got like a indented side and then the other side is sort of pushed out a bit. We want the indented side pushing towards the bush, just so it holds it in place. We've cleaned all this area around where it's going to go. So place it in. Straight through, look at that. Excellent. Have the logo facing out so it looks better. And tighten it up. Got bush, washer, and then washer and nut. It looks so much better with the yellow springs and with the black as well. It just makes it look matching. Very happy I did that. We've got bush, washer, normal washer, and then nut on the top. So I can't really compare the new shocks to the old shocks because they're not factory ones. The old ones actually look a bit thicker, but that might be because it's got a whole bunch of grease on it. So there's your difference. The new ones are going to be much better. Alright, so that's one side done. Just going to chuck the other side in exactly the same and then get going on the rear. Alright, so we've done the front. The only thing we haven't done is the steering dampener on the front, but the springs and shocks are all in. Time to take the rears out. I've heard there's some issues with the gas ones, that the petrol filler is redirected to right in front of the shock bolt. So we might have to take the filler hose out to the petrol tank, but we'll have to check it out and have a look. And this side sometimes scrubs with the exhaust depending on what shock absorber you get, so we'll have to have a look at that as well. We'll start by taking the shocks out so that we can lower the diff. One shock out. So the slides that the bushes go through, I'll give a bit of a clean and probably some grease as well. So if I can press this together, does it have any... Oh, it comes back a little bit. That's not a good noise. We'll take the other one out, hopefully we can get it out, and then we'll take the springs out. Because it's got the gas tank in it, the fuel filler had to be rerouted. So where they've put it is right in front of the shock bolt. So we're gonna have to undo the petrol filler and move it out the way. Of course, we're going to take this off, which happens to be held on my screwdrivers and cable ties. So we're just going to have to undo this here, and we should be able to move it out the way. So that is out of the way of that top shock nut now, so we should be able to undo that. And then we're still going to have to move it though, because it's going to push it against the spring. It has to come all the way out. Alright, so we've taken the filler hose out as much as we can. A lot of them I've seen are rubber the whole way, so that people can just move them. But with this one, it's solid steel the whole way. So we've just disconnected it from the fuel tank side and the filler side and moved it out the way best we can. I don't even understand how they got it in there in the first place, but it's there. So we're just gonna move it out the way best we can, take the shock out, put the new shock in just at the top, leave it disconnected, and then do the springs. So let's get going on it. So the old shocks, when I took them out, had a washer and nut for the top and a washer and nut for the bottom, where these only have one washer. So let's see how we go. We might have to reuse one. So it says that the washer goes on the bottom. Well, we're going to put one on the top anyway. So as we know, homemade tools are the best kind of tools. So we've got here just a threaded piece of steel with a nut on one end and a plate. So the way we're going to be putting these bushes in is put the bush in next to the plate. Make sure you have them the right way. They got a lip on the bush for the bottom and no lip for the one on the top. So we put it in like this. Put some soap on there. And the other plate and a nut. Alright. It's pretty damn close. There it is. Cool. So one side done. Nice. Both ends done. So now these are done, we're just going to take the covers off and prime them and chuck them in. We're going to put the shock in on the driver's side where the fuel is, just because we've got the post out of the way at the moment. So we're going to put just the top in, then we'll do the springs, and then we'll put the bottom in, because the top's the bit that's a pain. We've got the old shock here and the new shock next to each other. So the new one is definitely thinner, but that's a good thing on this car because the actual shock has been rubbing on the old spring. So looking at the measurements on this, it's about 1 inch shorter when fully extended. So I'd say that they put 2-inch shocks in and 3-inch springs, meaning it didn't fit properly. These could just be standard ones, I don't know.
They could be, yeah.
Because that's fully extended.
Yeah.
Or they're just terrible 3-inch, I don't know. But it's going to be a lot better. And hopefully it won't rub on the spring anymore. So we're going to put the top end of this in, take all the springs out and have a look at them. We've got that top shock nut in on the driver's side. So we're going to pull the spring out on that side, put the fuel tank filler back in, and then put the spring back in so they have a bit more room. So by looking at these two springs, we can see that even though they were heavy duty, they have sagged a little bit. They've definitely sagged a lot less than the fronts did. So hopefully with the new ones, it'll level it out and stop it having that weird tilt, making the front point towards the ground. We had a lot of trouble getting the rear springs out. Mainly had issues because the upper control arm has a bracket which hits the fuel tank, so it can't really flex very much, meaning the right side was a bit of a pain to get out. Hopefully they'll be a bit easier to get in. I doubt it because we're putting bigger ones in and the smaller ones were a problem, so we'll have to see how we go. So these ones are also non-directional. There's no top and bottom with the rears, not that I can see anyway. We didn't want to have to do this, but we're going to have to. Alright, so what we've done is we've taken off the diff breather and we've disconnected the brake line as well, just so we can get a little bit more flex out of the diff, because it's finding it really hard to get this rear spring in. So we're back to finish it off. It was a bit dark when we were mucking around with it last time, so we left it. We've decided that we're going to take the sway bars out to give it a little bit more flex, and then we can just lift this up and pull it down and we'll be able to get the springs in on each side. That's got a lot of flex now.
Move it the other way.
Enough.
More than before, isn't it? Yes.
Heaps more. Now that spring's just going to pop straight in. There we go.
That's it. That's it. That's it. That's got it.
So now we've got to put that fuel thing back in.
Yep. Let's do that.
And then we can do the other side. That's better.
Is it going on?
Cool, that's on.
Yeah. Yes, it's
Woohoo! It's not going anywhere now.
Okay.
That's it. Shocks are in, springs are in, sway bar needs to be connected, and we need to put the diff breather and brake lines back on, and then we can do the steering dampener. So we've got the sway bar in now at the rear, everything else is connected, we've got the diff breathers and everything on. So now we just got to replace this and the car's done. We got it out. Bush, it's just all torn apart and ripped. Same on the other side. They're exactly the same. This one's just a lot newer. So let's chuck it in. This one came with all new bushes and washers and everything, so we'll chuck the new ones in. Yeah. I'm more worried about the brake line that's next to it. So it's bent the metal bracket from it flexing. So I need front and rear
Brake lines.
extended brake lines. So that's it. The suspension's all in. So brand new steering dampener, spring shocks all the way around. So once we put it on the ground, it's going to sit higher than it's going to sit because it hasn't settled. We'll take it for a drive, get the springs to settle, go over some speed bumps, come back, and then we'll measure them, see what the height difference is going to be. It's definitely going to drive a lot better, so we'll bring you in the car and see how it drives. Alright, so the wheels are back on now. We're just going to measure the same as what we did before. So that's currently sitting at 73 centimeters. So that's a massive difference in flex, in natural flex, when it's just sitting here on the hoist. So for this one, put it up against the flare, straight down, and it's sitting at 64.5 here. So that's pretty similar to what it was at before, but we knew that it had high strength springs in the back anyway, so they hadn't sagged nearly as much as the front. Measuring it now that it's on the ground, and it's sitting at about 64 centimeters. I can't remember exactly what it was before, but it looks a heck of a lot bigger than when we started. So I'll put that on the screen so you can compare it. The front height is going to be the big difference. It's sitting at 63. So we're in the car now. It's driving so much better than before. All the rattles are gone. It used to shake and all sorts of things on the road. The whole dash used to rattle and everything because the shocks were so blown out, but now it's perfect. It's driving very smooth, drives straight because we did get a wheel alignment before driving it on the road properly. it's just so much better. It does sit a lot higher, and something I didn't mention in the video is that the springs do go in a specific way. You can't just chuck them in, they have to be spun into the correct location. So we've done that, it's all sitting evenly, and we're very happy with it. From what I've seen, the tyres don't scrub anymore, which is perfect, that's what we were after. Really happy with how it all came out, can't wait to take it off-road. So thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.